So essentially, isness, yesness is reality, and notness is illusion, unreality, right? And if we buy into notness, then that's the experience that we get. But it doesn't change the fact that it's still a mask, right? That notness is still unreality. And so it's only ever our investment, in notness that you can say gives it life, that gives it a kind of reality. When we are in feeding of it, when we are in belief of it, when we are in quote unquote charging of it by buying into the mask, right? So an analogy would be, let's say, a masquerade party or a Halloween party. And let's say some people are wearing masks and some people are not. And when you buy into the mask, then that's how you treat, that's your approach to the person. Let's say the person is wearing a monster mask or a ghost mask or whatever. And so then if you are so, caught, if you got quote unquote lured or bite the bait of the mask, then you'll be in fear. You'll treat it as a kind of threat or attack or something that can diminish you or something that is an adversary, something that is an enemy, you are against me, right? But only because you buy into the mask. Underneath those masks is the same, human beings, is the same isness, you can say. And so when there's the cessation of buying into the mask or illusion of notness, then there's a sense of, complete support. Since the notness, the idea of notness represents negation and contradiction and taking away, decrease, block, canceling out. But since the investment in that idea is no longer, right? That idea, let's say, is no longer charged or entertained. The mask is no longer entertained. Well, then that will not be the experience anymore. It's kind of like when a child wears a mask and you interact with the child as that mask. And so the more that the child will act as the mask, right? The more that it gets fed, the more that it gets charged, the more that it's gonna be quote unquote real, the more that the child will give that back to you. But when you don't engage with the mask and you see right through it and you don't have any investment of belief in the mask, then the child drops it, It just doesn't quote unquote work. There's no feeding. It doesn't get engaged, right? Another point that I would like to mention is that since you can say the purpose of notness is serve as a contrast to yesness, right? So in essence, it still is in service to isness, yesness. It still is, you can say, a support to isness and yesness. So basically, even the notness is in quote unquote service to isness, yesness, right? Like the movie analogy wherein there's the protagonist and antagonist. The protagonist is quote unquote actually reinforced by the antagonist. It's kind of like a hero wouldn't be a hero if it weren't for a villain, if it weren't for the contrast of, the antagonist. right? The antagonist actually supported or reinforced the idea of the hero, of the protagonist, you see. So the antagonist, you can say, really is not a taking away or a negation of the protagonist, but it's actually a reinforcement, even a support for the idea, you see, for the idea of protagonist. So there can only ever be support. There can only ever be a serving, service to isness. Another analogy would be the different colors, right? Let's say blue and red. The idea of blue is reinforced by all the other colors. Because you can say that blue is not red, blue is not green, blue is not yellow. So you can say that it reinforced the idea of blue. The notness, right? All the not blue colors reinforce the blue, the yesness of blue. And so all the other colors that are not blue served the isness of blue, you know, because they served as the contrast that reinforced the idea of blue, you see. So all are actually in service. All elements are being served, you know. There's only service, there's only reinforcement. It's only when we buy into the notness, it's only when we entertain or invest belief in the mask that we get the effect of the mask. You see, that is why you can say that all ideas are supported, because even the negation of it supports the idea of it, the yesness of it. It serves as a contrast to it. And so you can even say that it strengthens it, right? It defines it. Like when white is in a backdrop of black, then the backdrop of black actually highlights white. It actually supported white compared to when the white, let's say a white uh, shape or whatever, is in a backdrop of light blue, then you can, hardly see the see the white design or whatever. But if that white shape or design is in a backdrop of black, then you can see it clearly. The black backdrop helps delineate it, the white design clearly. It helped define the white shape clearly. And so it can only ever support it. It can only ever serve it. That's why notness can only ever support isness. Notness can only ever be in service to yesness. And so you can say that that's the quote unquote the true self of notness. That which is underneath the mask of negation, of trying to attack and diminish and block or whatsoever. Underneath that mask is support, is actually reinforcement. Again, it's only ever when we buy into the mask that we get the effect of the mask. But if we see right through, but if we grow up and don't engage anymore in these pretension or mask party that notness is doing, quote unquote, then we can only ever receive support or reinforcement, which is actually the case. That is why the experience of notness only ever gets fed if we feed it. If we believe in it, or if we charge it, if we entertain it, if we invest belief in it. like investing a belief in the mask. Well, then it's not the mask per se, but our investment in the belief in the illusion that gives us the experience, right? And so, yeah, this gives another, you can say, meaning to the term non duality, because there is now the cessation of the entertaining of the idea of not, of the idea of againstness or not, right? Not that. It's the notness that creates two-ness, right? Isness and notness. And so if there's not anymore the investment in notness, the charging of it, the entertaining of it, well, then what's left is isness. There is only isness. Because again, even the notness position helps reinforce or define isness, you know? So there's only that. Imagine a pool and there's a drainage. And so everything is draining into the drainage, right? The direction of everything is towards the drainage. All are reinforcing, all are in support of. And so you can relax, because all are in support of the true self. All are in support of the goodness, you can say. All are in support of the preference, right? And it's, you can say, effortless. The only thing you quote unquote did was to cease getting, fooled and bamboozled by the mask, getting deceived by illusion. All that was done was recognize reality, the case in fact.